to you by WebEngage. Fountainhead is a consolidation of all of our education, ecosystem, and community efforts. As the first initiative under this umbrella, the Fountainhead Leadership Series aims to bring to you the best of industry leaders to share actionable insights, tricks of the trade, and to answer all of your nuanced questions. So ready to get inspired and entertained? Let's go.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I guess it's morning for most of the audience that we're talking to today. So great to have you here, Harpreet, or can I call you Happy on there? I guess that's the name most people know him by. So Harpreet has been a college senior, an inspiration for a lot of people. 2005 is when he got out of campus. 2007 is when he started a company called CoCubes. So the idea was connecting colleges and companies, and this is 2007 you're talking about. So not exactly the time when starting up was very fashionable. He did that, built that with a lot of patience, a lot of perseverance, and lots of interesting elements from that story, which probably, hopefully, we'll cover some of them today. But then he also among the early people who got an exit, and then he's been having a after exit life, which most people don't necessarily know a lot about. So we'd love to delve into some of these topics, and primarily the theme of the conversation might be around the passion and the resilience it takes to kind of build a company, right, Harpreet? So let's roll, Harpreet. Any few
Hi.
initial words?
Initial words. Initial words? I didn't know I was supposed to say initial words, man.
Now you're on a spot. Use your spontaneity.
No, I think what is interesting to me is what you said of the life after selling. And, when we were looking to sell the company, I asked around and I said, what changes after you sell the company? Uh, and the answer that I got consistently from people who had sold companies or doing something else was that the only thing that changes is that you stop worrying about small money, which means that you can go to a mall and give your car to the valet, that you can in the morning take a 8:30 flight than a 6 o'clock flight. And this is what changes. Apart from that, nothing else changes. You still have to get up in the morning and think about what to do.
Awesome. So what have you been up to lately?
Yeah, we sold the company about 4.5 years ago. My voice is clear?
Yes, we can hear you all right. And now we can see you
Okay,
all right
excellent.
as well.
Oh, excellent. So we sold the company 4.5 years ago. We had to stay with the company as part of the deal. About 2 years, they asked us to stay for another 6 months. After that, I spent 6 months writing the book, Let's Build a Company. Uske baad, I spent about an year doing advisory with Ola and other firms of Ola. So I was traveling to Bangalore every week for 2, 3 days. Then I have had interesting last 1.5 years where I've done nothing. And that's been very exciting actually. My mom is calling me and saying कि क्या कर रहे हो तुम कुछ करो जिंदगी में. And I'm like यार कंपनी बना ली किताब लिख ली अभी तो ऐसा मत बोलो at least.
Yeah.
But
But
what can
that's
one
moms
do?
for you, right?
But that's moms for you. So what I did the last, I ended up traveling a lot, visiting new places, and a lot of not solo travel with my daughter, my wife. We stayed in the hills for a while, and across all this time, I was reading and writing a bit about parenting.
Is that the next
So
book
that's what
title? Hopefully.
I'm not sure if book will work for parents, man. So hopefully something else, hopefully a podcast, an app or something else. Once I think I know enough and I've experimented on enough kids, my own daughter and friends' kids. Once I know results.
Hmm. Awesome. So super. I think that's a part of I think the whole after sales journey that most people aspire to have, and you've had it at pretty early in your, let's say, age. So you have enough time and experimental space to do all the things you want to do. Yes. So yeah, let's get on with the conversation. So the first thing I wanted to
Absolutely.
spend time on is the whole start with why thing. You started
Hmm.
back in 2007, where it wasn't exactly a hot time to be an entrepreneur. So there was something which was driving you, motivating you to do this. And is it still a super valid point, or how do you see this whole motivation, inspiration, purpose thing being at the center of the idea of starting up?
So, two things. One, let me tell you, I haven't read the book. Okay, start with why. So, there's nothing from that context going to come. The second thing is, I have a coach. His name is TVG Krishnamurthy. This 1.5 years ago, when I was chatting with him, saying, "Ke next kya karna hai? You know, what should one do?" The question he asked me was, "Why do anything?" Right. So, question you are asking me, like, what to do, right? This is a question before that, which is why do anything? And I said that sounds like a fair question. I didn't have the answer to it. So I said, I agree. Let's not do anything. And that is how the last 1.5 year went. Over this, I realized two or three things. One was that when we are born, we learn to walk. Nobody teaches us how to walk. We just, learn to walk. Then we learn to speak. Uh, Everybody else is speaking around us, and we also learn to speak. And all of this effort uh, happens on its own. Yeah. So if what the learning here was that if you want to live a joyful life, some curve in your life has to go up. You can optimize for the curve of money. You can optimize for some other curve, but some skill, something has to go up if you want to if you want to live a joyful life, right? So the question of why do anything, that got answered absolutely, that you need to make some effort in some direction to be able to do something, right? Otherwise, I'm saying life is just a bore. When you wake up every day, you need to be enthusiastic about something. Okay.
Hmm.
So why do anything got answered? After that, it became about what to do. And the question there was, like, the answer to me over the last 1.5 years, there have been so many opportunities, join a big company, do a CEO job, start another company, not do anything, whatever. The answer to me, at least for me right now, is I love reading and writing around parenting. I want to do more around it. And the reason for it is that I love doing it. I genuinely enjoy doing it. And I am improving, I am learning as I do it. And that is my answer to think, oh, I can do this for another 5, 10 years. I don't mind at all. Like, there is no stress, there is no question of an exit, about an IPO, ABCD, XYZ. I just do it because I enjoy doing it. And that is why I will do it.
So, what I was classically expecting slash hoping slash what would have seen elsewhere is it's the passions which kind of lets you go through the hard times, right? That's where if you have a purpose clear, it'll let you sail through the hard times. And that's where referring back to the journey at CoCubes, which was a long one and a tumultuous one as well in some occasions, right? So that's where the question would now pinpoint and zoom in. Okay, did you start with a specific motivation in mind that this problem is something that you care about deeply, or just the idea of starting up sounded like a great thing to do, or what was it that drove you towards that? I mean, of course, you're talking about joyful living right now, so that's great. But is that what was the driver at that point as well?
Not at all. Not at all. I think there were two things. One, we had multiple ideas.
Hmm.
One idea was life in lines, obviously, as you know.
Sure.
Yeah. But we had multiple ideas we wanted to pursue. This one was the one which seemed closest to one that we understood and seemed to
Hmm.
have an impact, like a social impact. So
Hmm.
that was the reason we picked CoCubes over all the other ideas. We understood the
Hmm.
idea. We were just out of college, and it seemed to
Hmm.
have a social impact. I think those were the
Hmm.
reasons we picked that idea. I think what the difference, Gatani, between then and now is that today when I pick an idea, I am not thinking of an outcome. At that point in time, I
Hmm.
was thinking about, hey, we need to make a $1 billion company out of this. We need a big outcome. We need to create
Hmm.
this impact. Today, I'm not thinking about it. I'm saying I'm doing this because I enjoy doing this. Let's see what happens.
But is that what a founder at, let's say, 27 years of age, what would, in your observation, be the people that you talk to today among the entrepreneurs? What are they thinking, and what would you recommend to them in terms of why they should do whatever they're doing?
Yeah, look, it's natural for when you're young and you read newspapers and you do other things to basically say, look, I want to build a unicorn. End of
Hmm.
story. That is,
Exactly.
but saying it doesn't lead you there. You need to put in the effort, and you need to be.
Hmm.
If you put in the effort joyfully and enjoying what you're doing every day, and you do it the right manner towards a goal, you can have a goal. That is not a problem, right? But I'm saying then you need to put in the effort, and that is what is critical.
हाँ, बट वहीं पे तो हार्ड टाइम्स में सेल थ्रू करना मुश्किल हो जाता है ना, मतलब पीपल विल, द सक्सेस रेट ऑफ स्टार्टअप्स इज नॉट एग्जैक्टली अ यू नो ग्रेट नंबर. यू विल हैव फेलियर पॉइंट्स एट सीड, सीरीज ए, यूनिकॉर्न के बाद भी यूनिकॉर्न्स बनते हैं. सो देन
Yeah.
व्हाट कीप्स यू गोइंग इज द क्वेश्चन.
What keeps you going is the belief that I really like doing this, no matter the time. And I'm saying if I keep doing this, I will get through it.
बट उसमें फिर पैशन वर्सेस डिसिप्लिन की कहानी नहीं आ जाएगी, बिकॉज देयर विल बी ऑलवेज एस्पेक्ट्स व्हिच you don't exactly like or you don't exactly enjoy, but they still need that discipline to kind of go through those motions, because
No,
that's what's
absolutely.
necessary for you to scale.
You know, absolutely. Hire someone to do it. I'm saying after we were selling in colleges,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I realized I don't enjoy selling to colleges. Like I don't want to sit outside a chairman's office, but I like what we are doing. When we bring a college
Hmm.
online, students come online. That is enjoyable to me, and I like
Hmm.
the final outcome that comes. But I don't like the process of making an Excel file or sitting outside a principal's office and having a 2 hour conversation over chai, which is too slow for me. So we hired people to do that.
So as an entrepreneur,
Right?
can
That
you
is how
say that
scaling.
it's safe to assume that you will have the luxury to kind of delegate the stuff that you don't enjoy to other people at mostly all times? Over there parts where you thought, yeah, this sucks, but I've got to do it nonetheless.
No, absolutely. I had to learn it. Only then I could delegate.
Mm-hmm.
For example, in parenting, there's this thought that comes that says if your kid is weak in maths and great in swimming, most people will hire a maths tutor. But maybe better is to hire a swimming coach, a better swimming coach.
So you're saying, and I'm now trying to connect it back to your. So I'm assuming the parenting references will keep coming, and that's a great idea because it just helps make life a little more interesting. But going back to the thesis around, if you're saying that you needed to learn it before you could actually hand it off to somebody, that would mean you'll end up having to learn a whole bunch of stuff. As entrepreneurs, is
No,
that something that people should consider? That I'm going to learn this and then I'm going to build a team to hand it off to.
I think at the initial stages, that is an important thing to do.
Hmm.
Uh, I think as you scale, for example, can you totally learn branding? Maybe it is not your cup of tea. And then it is best to hire someone who has a proven track record of
Hmm.
doing that well and then learn from them
Hmm.
rather than learn yourself and hand it over.
Fair enough. So the choices will end up being pretty subjective, I would imagine, right? As to what is it that you would rather do to a certain level, learn and then hand over, vis-a-vis bring in somebody versus and let them drive the show and learn from them.
No,
Is
absolutely.
there
It
a
depends
playbook
upon.
around this that you think
I
makes
haven't,
sense?
I haven't actually made a framework around it. I'm sure a framework is possible. I think
Hmm.
the parameters when I'm thinking off the cuff are dependent on what is the criticality of that role for your company? How much time do you have? How much money do you have in the bank to be able to, hire somebody who can actually do this? These are the
Hmm.
3, 4 parameters that come to my mind.
Hmm. Okay. So, well, not everything's going to be a joyride, but as long as you can afford to bring in the right people to do that for you, that's a luxury as entrepreneurs one might enjoy. So, the next topic I probably want to jump into, which is a sort of a new interesting time we're living in, right? Every other day now, you look at economic times and you have all of these unicorns getting born. So, how do you maintain focus in this times of fear of missing out? Because that seems to be the emerging theme. Everybody wants to build a unicorn.
Hmm. The interesting question there, Gatu, is what is FOMO? Like, what is FOMO? I know the definition of FOMO, fear of missing out, but what is it? And I was speaking at a conference, and in a lot of conferences, rather than about building a company, everything ends up going to funding. And there was this entrepreneur, because that seems like one of the hard parts to get to, and one entrepreneur who said, I want to, like, it came out as part of the conversation that what he wanted was to see his name in the newspaper on the front page saying this company has raised $50 million. Okay. And I think consciously, subconsciously, this is how it is. We want to, we feel a certain set of pride when we see it, we want to show it to our parents, all of that. And I told the guy, "Ki yaar, you see newspapers every day and you see के funding का news आया है. Where does that newspaper go the next day? अगले दिन वो कचरे में ही जाता है ना. So why are you getting FOMO from it? Because this newspaper is going to go to the kachara next day. Nobody's going to remember this article. You will have that article. Even if you raise the money, the next day, it is still tough. You have to build the company. Yeah. Now, the reason I'm saying it is because I think FOMO comes from comparison.
Yep.
You see others doing it and you see, oh, I am not doing it, or I want to do it. And FOMO comes from comparison. In this case, it was coming from newspaper comparison. Yeah. And comparison is like the root of all misery in this world. You're either ahead of somebody or you're behind somebody. You can't just be. And to just be is just so much fun. Like you said, focus in times of FOMO. The focus in times of FOMO can come if you stop comparing and you just do what you're supposed to do and build the company that you want to build. शायद जल्दी यूनिकॉर्न बन जाएगी, शायद लेट बनेगी, शायद नहीं बनेगी, पता नहीं है. At now, for present, what you can do is put in the effort.
मतलब ये तो बहुत सदगुरु टाइप स्टेटमेंट नहीं है. फोकस बट मतलब स्टॉप कंपेयरिंग, which is sage advice, great, but how practical and how easy, or is there a way to do this? मतलब क्या करे फोकस करने के लिए, क्योंकि इकोनॉमिक टाइम्स पढ़ना छोड़ दे.
I'm saying I have stopped my newspaper.
You have?
The newspaper is gone. Absolutely, because I'm saying this news is going to keep coming. I can spend and earlier I used to this cup of chai and Russ and the newspaper in front of me, and then I said, why the fuck am I filling my head with all this shit news every morning?
Okay.
There seems to be no reason except from that I have seen my father do it, and then I started doing it, and I've been doing it for the last 15 years. And where does this lead me? Like I'm none wiser at all. Even newspapers today don't even have stuff you can talk to other people about.
But that will be ending up, but how do you close it yourself? It's not just the newspaper, it'll also be your Twitter feed. It'll also be, if you remember अपने IIT के hostel में there used to be this board, somebody cracks something. वो या तो Stanford होगा या कोई fancy job होगा. अभी that thing is now the X level of valuation with Y level of funding. So you can't, unless you're prepared to live under a rock, you can't escape this situation. So switching it off, is that possible?
Okay, I'm saying let me try it from a different angle. In child pedagogy and in all the older books that you read, even Montessori, what they say is discipline comes through freedom. Okay, I'm going to say 2 lines. Discipline comes through freedom. The other thing is stop giving a reward and stop giving a punishment to the child. Okay. Only then the child will do what the child wants to do.
Is that necessarily a good thing?
That is a great thing, because I'm saying the child will then do. Okay, I'm going to jump another thing. Okay, which say that there is only one kind of child that exists in the world, and that child is a child who has found something to do and is absorbed in doing it. That child has no care in the world. वो कुछ कर रहा है, कुछ वुडन ब्लॉक के साथ कर रहा है, सैंड के साथ खेल रहा है, बिल्ली के साथ खेल रहा है, या किताब पढ़ रहा है, and the child is doing it without any external reward or punishment. And that is the state you want to be in. That is the state you want to spend most of your life in.
Oh, so I think
and that comes without reward and punishment.
तो flow की बात कर रहे हैं हम शायद. That's the term that's used. That's a book that's written. A lot of people talk about this situation where you're challenged a little beyond your abilities and you're fully absorbed in that topic, and that's where you actually enjoy the most. These are some of the so-called challenging times where you're stretched beyond your abilities, but that's the part you find the most memorable. That's the part you enjoy the most.
I'm absolutely with you, and I'm going to connect this to something that I said earlier, which is some curve in life has to go up, and you brought it up by saying it has to be a little challenging. Some curve in life has to go up. Effort has to be put if you want to, actually have fun. And this is what focus is. And if you do this, then I'm saying all the other FOMO is gone. I'm not saying I don't get FOMO. I'm just saying when I get FOMO, this is what I do.
So you do what you enjoy, you do what you find a little challenging, and you find your flow. So you basically stay focused with that particular thing instead of getting distracted by all the noise that exists around you.
हाँ करेक्ट, क्योंकि यार किसी और को फंडिंग मिल गई, वो सोच के मेरा क्या होने वाला है.
Yeah, which is a slightly wild thing to say, but that's the hard part, right? For most people on the other side, typically people who are still in jobs, who still kind of होता है ना, कंपैरिजन ना करो, ये तो बहुत आसान होता है बोलना, बट टू फाइंड अ टेक्निक टू काइंड ऑफ मैनेज दिस, आई डोंट नो,
Hmm. No,
यू
absolutely.
सेइंग स्विच ऑफ और
Yeah,
find your flow.
yeah. I'm just saying, put in the effort. That is
Okay.
what is required.
I remember back in the Life and Lines days when we had our review calls, we used to start the conversation with what's the good news. So generally,
What's the
high
good news?
spiritedness and high level of energy is, or some sort of a positive mindset, is that what your, let's say, pill would be for maintaining motivation through the hard times?
Uh, Look, you have to protect your downside and you have to focus on the positive. Like startups are so hard that you can't
Hmm.
live without focusing on the positives. There is no doubt about it. So there was this question that Subrata Bakchi had asked Dalai Lama, and he said, you have been talking about liberating Tibet for so long, and nothing has happened. Like you are a failed entrepreneur. How do you live with it? Like you're so smiling every day, you get up. Like how do you live with it? And Dalai Lama answers that the bigger the objective, the stronger the resolve. And he said, this is no longer about Tibet, this is about world peace. Now I'm saying you can say this is a Gyan line that Dalai Lama can give, but he's actually living it. He seems peaceful, he's fighting for what is there. He still hasn't gotten it, but he's putting in the effort to do it
And he's doing it with a smile.
and doing it with a smile. Let me take another
That's
example here.
hmm.
I'd done an internship in Tokyo. Okay. Um, and my professor there finished his, I found out my professor there finished his PhD in about, I think, less than 1 year in US. So I asked him, on one of the lunches, and it got to my mind, कि यार PhD कैसे खत्म कर दी इतनी जल्दी? So I asked him, कि, how did you do it? Why did you do it? And you know what he said? He said, I didn't like the topic.
Get done with it and move on.
Get done it. That I'm saying that is so incredible. And that this is a true story. He said, I didn't like the topic. He has never worked on that topic again.
However, why spend 5 years of your life doing a PhD on something you don't care about? You might as well do whatever you're going to do, but get done with it in a year.
Absolutely, 100%.
So choosing the part that kind of keeps you in the flow ends up somewhere coming back to the theme yet again, right? That's where reference to the child who's perfectly happy building a sand, sculpture, and he's absorbed in it because that's what he enjoys doing. It doesn't matter what the reward is or what the punishment is. So if you can find something that you care about so much which keeps you in that state of flow, I think that's the pursuit, right?
Yeah,
And
I
for
agree.
the supposedly lesser mortals, would you consider? And you mentioned having a coach of in Mr. Krishnamurti, if I remember the name correctly. But from
Hmm.
a support system perspective, friends, family, mentors, coaches, professional advisors, board of advisors, what's the structure that you think is the most apt for entrepreneurs? Because a lot of them are doing it for the first time. They're probably still in their late 20s, early 30s, and not necessarily always having the right experience to deliver on things they need to now deliver on.
Hmm. And look, I'm saying this is not a question of lesser models or different models, right? I'm just saying this is absolutely sensible to do.
Hmm.
Like absolutely sensible to do. Like the two, three things that come to my mind is one, get a coach. When I was offered a coach when I was 24 years old, I said, why the fuck do I need a coach? Yeah, like,
And this is part
like
of
I
your
don't need a
company's
coach.
job whenever where you're working at that time, is it? Inductors.
No, 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 no. After that, I'm saying when I was running CoCubes, I was offered a coach.
Acha. Okay.
Our venture capital folks, Ojas,
Hmm.
they introduced me
Hmm.
to TVG, who eventually
Hmm.
became my
Hmm.
coach.
Hmm.
But he said, "Oh, you can talk to him. He can be your coach." Why the fuck do I need a coach? Look, I want to change the world. I don't need a coach. And over time, you realize you do need a coach. Somebody who has been knows what you're experiencing, has seen this situation multiple times. There is so much to learn from such a person.
Hmm.
So why do all the learning myself? And
Hmm.
if Messi can have a coach, if Steve Jobs can have a coach, if Federer can have a coach, why can't you have a coach? Like why don't you
So
have a
this
coach?
is this I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know if it's still an ego topic that I don't need a coach anymore. Probably that 24-year-old right out of college might feel oh so powerful, but I mean, very soon you'll realize that you're not really the all so powerful. So you will want to have a coach. But then where do you find these? These are professional coaches. They'll have to come through referrals. It's not like they're available on web that I'll Google, find a coach and get somebody who's like amazing.
Like absolutely. I think get references. I think there are now companies in India. There's a company called Peak Performance. Maybe I think this is what they do. But I think this is becoming more prevalent than before. I think in US it is anyways more prevalent. It is a
Yeah.
norm for founders to have a coach, and I think in India, finding good coaches could be difficult. Like I am like a formal informal coach to about 10, 20, 25 entrepreneurs, right?
Wow. Okay.
And it like the relationship builds. Like I didn't say, oh,
Hmm.
I want to be your coach, or he didn't say, oh, I want to coach now. I want to talk every 2 weeks or etc. etc. We didn't do
Yeah.
it that way. We did it as part of forming a relationship over time.
Hmm.
But getting a coach is one. The second is, second is to get a group of 4 or 5 founders together
Hmm.
who are running companies similar or even dissimilar, a little behind, a little ahead, but 4 or 5 founders who you respect, who you can learn from, and meet once a month and be able to share all your problems. यार marketing में ये problem आ रहा है, अरे यार ये यहाँ पे ये लड़ाई हो रही है, whatever it might be able to share
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
And if you can find this group of 4 or 5 candid people who can talk to each other like
Hmm.
this, that will be like one of the most, it will like the best group that you had.
But it's
It
kind of
can,
ironic because everybody needs this group, which just then means somebody should take the initiative, right? Because all those 5 people are benefiting from it.
and absolutely, and the person who take initiative is you.
Yeah, you might as well. Why wait to be invited?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Hmm. So get a coach, get 5 founders together, be the driver if you need to be, and those 5 people will all benefit from this
I'm
whole
saying
thing.
not if you need to be. You will need to be. This is where the ecosystem
Hmm.
is.
Yeah, so you be the driver. It doesn't matter. I mean, once once it's in motion, who cares how it started? It'll be effective. It'll be
Right,
valuable. So that's two.
right.
What else? Is there anything else?
Uh, I think this is enough. But I'm saying the personal side of things, you can actually share it with a coach, or you should have somebody you can talk to your real feelings about.
Hmm.
A lot of times we try to bottle it up, uh, hoping it'll go away. And I think talking
Hmm.
helps. The main thing that talking helps in is that knowing that you're not alone. Not alone in the sense of, यार अगर तुम्हारा co-founder छोड़ गया, yeah, you're not able to raise money. You might feel alone in the world. But the point is, millions of people have gone through the same situation before you, right? And when you talk to somebody about it, share your feelings, I'm saying you will actually figure that out.
Yeah, this is getting close to a shrink conversation, right? Because mental health ends up being a big topic for an entrepreneur's journey. That's the ups and downs we're dealing with. So, are we saying somewhere a professional shrink is also a good idea to consider? Having once in a while.
I'm saying could be, yeah. Look, I have not personally used one. I would love to go to a
Hmm.
therapist. It would be so nice for somebody to keep
Yeah.
listening to you, man. Yeah, whatever the fuck you talk about,
Yeah.
somebody is listening.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I'm just saying that shrink is, I think, a US concept, a
Hmm.
foreign concept. I'm saying it might also be more applicable there because less population, further away houses, lesser relationship. India is very social. You
Hmm.
can like I'm saying a guy holding a hand on another guy, putting a hand on his shoulder and walking is just very common.
Yeah.
And so we are normally more open about our feelings, and I think you can get a shrink. That is okay,
Hmm. Hmm.
but you can also talk to it about it to a friend or your
Yeah.
father or your mother or anybody else.
But have that setup where you can actually unbottle all these things because otherwise it'll bog you down.
Absolutely.
So entrepreneurship might sound like a lonely journey to especially solo founders, right? That's where the chemistry between co-founders ends up being one of the more valuable things to nourish, or else it can go haywire.
If you don't talk to somebody, if you do not communicate, if you don't share your feelings, it is going to be a lonely journey. It doesn't need to be.
Hmm. It doesn't need to be. I think that's the key message. Don't hold yourself back because you feel that there's any degree of nobility in doing it this way.
Hmm.
Okay, so we spoke about FOMO and we spoke about the current times, and you look at the founders, and you mentioned having an active coach to a whole bunch of them now. They're
Hmm.
build to exit versus build for IPO. Some people might just have a very focused approach and I want to build it and I want to sell it in 3 years. Whether I enjoy this or not, it doesn't matter because I'm sufficiently motivated by the financial rewards that it'll get me. Is there
Hmm.
a pattern you've seen among the people, and is there a pattern you've seen in terms of the outcomes with different kinds of motivation?
Hmm. Yeah, look, I think there was something I was reading. In US, for example, it is common for a large company to tell a few entrepreneurs, "Why don't you build this? We will acquire
We'll
it in
buy.
a few years."
Yeah.
it is legal. Yeah, it is
Hmm.
not illegal. It is legal for the company to do it. And the entrepreneur says, okay, seems like a nice problem. They're going to buy it if I solve it. So let me do this for 2, 3 years. And I think that's
Hmm.
absolutely okay. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh, but if you start with the mindset of saying, I want to IPO or I want to exit in 3 years, uh, what you're saying is build to exit is to say to get lucky. That I want to get lucky in 3 years. Yeah, you might get lucky, you might not get lucky.
Hmm.
If that is a strategy, it is a 0-1 game.
Hmm.
And it also feels like you're always running. You're on the clock. Oh, dude,
Hmm.
it's already 1.5 years. Where have I reached? Oh, 3 years is about to come. I'm saying, do you want to live your life like a dog is behind you? I don't want to live like that.
But is that a pattern you see? Any of the entrepreneurs that you're currently coaching, they started out like that and they've now shifted to a longer horizon, or because you speak to a lot of these young entrepreneurs now, right?
Yeah, I'm saying I have right now. It is. Let me say it this way. I have seen that not this pattern now, but I've seen this pattern in 2015, 16, 14,
Hmm.
when funding had escalated and
Hmm.
everybody wanted to be an entrepreneur. And so many people professionally left their jobs to be an entrepreneur, not realizing how hard it is going to be, only thinking of, अरे बहुत पैसा बनेगा, ये हो जाएगा, वो हो जाएगा,
Hmm.
and then realizing, oh, I just don't want to do this. I'm not cut out for this. I don't enjoy
Hmm.
doing this. And I think
Hmm.
the main thing there was, I don't think they had their heart in the idea, in the
Hmm.
outcome that their idea will produce. If
Hmm.
somebody was making furniture, like they didn't really care about producing great furniture or what the customer will feel, etc. They just thought, oh, this is a great thing. Let me buy here, get it from here and sell it to this guy, and maybe I'll make a marketplace. It'll become a big company. Yeah,
Opportunist.
yeah. Which could be another thing of build to exit in 3 years. Like I have an entrepreneur right now who has a $1 billion offer to sell his company. Okay, the company does about $15 million in revenue.
Okay.
Okay, it's a cash offer. The guy
Okay.
isn't selling. He's saying, यार मुझे तो यही करना है ना जिंदगी भर. What will I do after I sell the company?
Hmm.
And it is just hard. It is great and just hard also to talk to such people. But they are clear. He's saying, यार मुझे तो यही करना है.
That goes back to our flow wala topic, right? I mean, if you start with the right motivations, if you're enjoying the journey, you might as well enjoy it for the journey of it and not necessarily the reward of it.
Absolutely. I'm thinking if you do it for the reward, you're going to get screwed. Journey is going to be harder. Hard.
Yeah. So now let's build a company, right? That's the book, and that's become, I think, the Indian counterpart slash, I wouldn't even like to use the word version, but the counterpart or a response or a take on the hard things about hard things. I found the book pretty fascinating myself. So all the folks listening here, if you've not read it, please go pick it up on Amazon. And I'm not saying because Harpreet is a senior, he is here, I'm putting a plug for him, but I thoroughly enjoyed the book, right? And the question, and I in fact reached out to him probably a quarter after he'd finished writing this book as to what's up and would you have time for a coffee? He said, Gattu, unfortunately, I'm getting too many of these coffee requests right now. So I'm busy sort of finding more scalable ways to intervene in this ecosystem, right? And that's where it was. I think this is still a while ago now. So I'm curious among all the people that reached out to you, the kind of questions they were asking, the kind of problems that were coming across. Were you able to observe a pattern? That these are kind of most frequent questions among entrepreneurs.
Hmm. The two kinds of things I get, the most common ones. One is, thank you for writing this. Startups are hard. We understand this now. And these are people who have done a little bit of something and they have figured it out and said, we resonated with this, right? And we learned so much. So that's
Sure.
one. Thank you for writing this. Nobody writes about how it was to go through it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the other are people who want to start a company, and there the only question is, will you fund us? Yeah.
But
So
that's
that
that, right? I mean, nothing else.
I'm saying the other one would be the other one which I get most commonly after how to fund is how do I build the right culture? Culture seems important for us
Hmm.
also. Can you help with that?
So, are you doing something about the whole culture side of things? Because that seems to be a very, very common topic lately, right? The whole the pace of growth ends up keeping you so absorbed, the culture just goes out of control, or does it?
No, absolutely. Yeah. So look, I do think at CoCubes we genuinely had a great culture. We genuinely had people who believed in the company. We had people who worked harder than how much effort at least I put. Before anyways used to work a lot. And I think I can solve that. This is a problem I can solve. I know the framework and I can solve that. The thing I got stuck with, Gatani, is that with this limited time that we have, where do I spend it?
Sure.
And I'm saying, to me, it was for the answer for the last 1.5 years has been, travel and reading and writing around parenting, and that's what I want to do more of. So like otherwise I could. So when somebody comes, then we talk about the framework, or I send him something to read, and I think that solves the problem to some extent. But I haven't done the implementation in multiple companies so far, which actually is, I genuinely think it's an open area and somebody should do it.
So, fun fact, about 3 weeks ago on the same conversation, I had somebody from Amazon, and the title was Year 27 is still day one. The whole culture side of things, because to maintain that level of disciplined aggression over these many years, where so many other people have come in and probably faltered and probably not found the exact same equation, culture ends up being the driver of everything. And yet, on the other hand, what you see right now in the ecosystem is just crazy. So, which is where I'm wondering if there is a structured intervention to be made while the founders might get coaches and get stepped up. Is there a structured intervention you anticipate? People like you might be able to, but you have other priorities in life.
So look, I don't think it is going to happen.
Hmm.
I look, every company has a culture.
Sure.
Okay, whether it is the culture you want or not, I'm saying is a separate matter. Yeah, culture is that people understand how other people are going to behave in the company. If there's a company where
Mhm.
people leave very frequently, there's attrition, that is part of the culture of that company.
Hmm.
Now, that is not desirable culture maybe for the founder, but that is culture. What you're saying is, if there is a culture that the founder desires, they can make interventions and make it formal and do a lot of things to get there.
Hmm.
That is possible. I do not see enough people doing it right now.
Hmm.
Uh,
But isn't
will it
that
happen?
the quote was culture is strategy for breakfast, right? That was a quote. So, would you agree with that?
No, I agree with the quote, absolutely.
Hmm.
And I'm saying, look, it is a one-sided quote. Culture is strategy for breakfast, or culture is higher than strategy. Goes back to
Sure.
comparison. No need to compare.
Yeah, yeah.
Culture is important,
You
strategy
can.
is important, both are important,
Fair enough.
right? But essentially, culture is an important piece if you want to enjoy your journey and if you want to
Hmm.
have more sense of control over the company. I absolutely, absolutely love Amazon for the culture.
Hmm.
It
Yeah.
is consistent. It is clear across the globe. You talk to
Hmm.
somebody in UK, talk to somebody in US, talk to somebody in India. The leadership principles of Amazon are clear as clear, crystal clear as water.
But that was the fun part, right? There's so much institutionalization of this whole culture thing. The way they described it as to, I asked them, what do you do on an everyday basis to make this work? So it was quite fascinating the way they end up having it institutionalized in a manner that it remains consistent across so many thousands of employees, so many thousands of situations. So Amazon's great, but it's again too big a company to find references from now to apply to a smaller company, right? So if you were to have a couple of pointers around what is the right framework or steps you can take in that direction to get your culture on the right, let's say, takeoff point, because I mean most companies, including ours, right now we're scaling from probably 120 people at the beginning of the pandemic to now 230, and now we have another 70, 80 coming in. It's a topic, at this point, at this pace, how do you maintain the so-called original DNA, original culture? Because it's hard.
Yeah, I think first demystify. So I'm going to take a 2-3 step kind of an approach.
Hmm.
Demystify what the original culture is. Original culture is
Hmm.
not enough. पहली जैसी
Sure.
बात नहीं रही, is not enough to say.
Hmm. Hmm.
What is that pehle jaisi baat? You need to codify. You need to write
Hmm.
in 6, 7, 8 lines what it means. Let's say 6 lines, 6 pointers. You write, this is pehle jaisi baat. This is our
Hmm.
current culture that we want to sustain. That is step one. The second part of that is to have concrete examples where you
Hmm.
say, oh, this is what happened and this is what that person did. So this is what this line means in real
Hmm.
life in our company.
Hmm.
Okay. The third is there any physical thing that you can give to the person who is onboarding in your company, which makes him feel he's now part of the culture and has an obligation, which helps connect everybody. In CoCubes,
Okay.
this was a physical coin, a silver coin we used to give to everybody, which had the logo on one side and the other side said, I impact careers. So once the person
Okay.
went through culture onboarding session where we spoke about the 6 points and the examples.
Hmm.
After that, once they complete their probation period, did a ceremony to give this coin.
Okay.
Okay, and then the person carried around the wallet. They'll meet a customer
Hmm.
and say, customer, ask तुम्हारे और बाकी company में क्या difference है? And he would take it out and say, look, I really believe in what I'm doing. And I'm not this is not a gimmick, like they really believed.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you think that's still possible now in the current times, given the speed at which attrition happens, the duration of an employee in a company is not all that long, because your beliefs will probably start seeming very
Look,
fluid.
if duration of employee in the company is not so long, you're anyway going to get fucked. You want the
Yeah,
duration to be long. And
yeah,
how do you get
yeah.
their duration long? By building the right culture. So this is more
Hmm.
important, more useful than ever before.
जो बचा वो बचा, at least he'll be proud of what he's doing. The rest of it will anyway fall apart.
I'm saying lesser people will fall apart once they find a
Hmm.
sense of purpose.
The purpose. It goes back to the why thing, right? Somewhere.
Why, man? Why do fucking anything?
हाँ, ठीक है, चलो. So, again, coming back to the present times, the maturity of founders, the amount of information available, the networks to be accessed is a lot more compared to what you started out in 2007 with, right? Do you think there's a clear good part to it and there's a clear bad part to it?
Yeah, I don't know the good or the bad part. I think it's different than before, like you said.
Sure.
When we started, there were five VCs in the country. If you didn't get money from those five, you had no way to raise capital.
Hmm.
We had to do the college B2B route because students didn't have mobiles. They didn't have internet at home. Now everything is different. You can get distribution easily. You have YouTube, you have, all these channels. You can get distribution easily. I would never
Sure.
do the college route in today's time if we're starting CoCubes
Hmm.
again.
Hmm.
So things have changed, right?
Hmm.
Uh, One thing I see is that because there is more money available, what is happening is founders with lesser skill are lasting longer.
Okay.
Earlier, the bar to succeed was very high.
Hmm.
The bar has come down. Now, whether they will
I'm going to
make it
ask this
into
whole double click on the succeed ka definition, huh? But please complete your current point.
absolutely, absolutely, yeah. Uh, like the bar to even raise capital, let's make it
Hmm.
earlier was very high. The bar now
Hmm.
is much lower.
Yeah.
Okay. The quality of people also is better in some ways, but I'm saying the
Sure.
bar now is much lower. It's easier to
Hmm.
raise capital. What does that mean?
Relatively, of
All
course.
kinds of founders, yeah,
Hmm.
all kinds of founders, all kinds of ideas are getting funded.
Hmm.
Follow on funding is easier. So you have more
Hmm.
iterations to get to product market fit.
Hmm.
That I think is the biggest positive, you know,
Okay.
that I see in the ecosystem. That you
Hmm.
have more money to get to product market fit, to pivot, to do whatever is required, which wasn't
Hmm.
there earlier. If
Hmm.
you died, and you just went on to do something else.
But doesn't it also have its counter effect in terms of people getting under the pressure to deploy capital and then throwing more darts than they can manage, and then it just becomes indigestion instead of starvation?
No, that is absolutely true here. I'm saying there you need to,
Hmm.
there are multiple things to keep in mind, but essentially this we see happening across the board. The
Hmm.
funda is you can do whatever you do there. Finally, if there is no market size or if the customer doesn't find value without the discount, the reward that you're offering, yeah, in some ways, your startup is going to die or not be as valuable as it seems today.
Which is what the whole success ka definition part was, right? As you mentioned that the bar to success was higher earlier, now it seems to be lower. But as of now, the way it at least seems in the media, raising a whatever $1 million round as your Series A, Series B seems to be a great validator. People are congratulating on funding rounds and it's all great. But is that success?
I'm saying, do you know this well enough? I'm saying if
I-
the what, look, I don't want to get philosophical anymore. I'm done with
Sure.
philosophy. Yeah. So I don't want to go to what is success, right? But essentially, if, the funda here is even if you get the money, you need to still build the company. Money doesn't build
That's
the
the hard
company
part.
for you.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So on building the company side of things, this whole funding and then the consequent actions, which times cause temptations, right? You wrote about the subject of having set up a fancy office and all of that jazz, and then you rolled it back. You know, spend a little more time on what kind of temptations come in when you have the money and which you'd rather be a lot more conscious of.
And now, or
Yeah, I mean, given that the money is flush, It's a lot easier to get money, as you said, and people would probably have a lot more of those temptations to step up the office because it's apparently important to attract good quality talent to have a fancier office.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Uh, I'm look, it is a complicated
Among other
question.
things, of course,
Yeah.
an office is just one, but there are so many other things that people seem to be splurging on when they raise money, which I don't know. What's a
Give me
good idea? What's
examples of
not?
other things.
Yeah, the salary hikes, the perks that's being offered, it's a lot of, I mean, I'm right now on a hunt for talent, and it's become super hard because the pay hikes that have become a norm are pretty crazy. So I'm just
Hmm.
wondering, where does this all lead? And as
Hmm.
startup founders who are kind of trying to build long-term cultures, is that the right approach to make? Because it'll ultimately create a culture of a degree of non-frugality, so to speak, right? Which is not healthy. But again, that's the reality we're living in. So I'm curious if, from your perspective, the whole managing your money better, and we in fact had a conversation around deploying your capital well. But what's your take on managing capital to the extent that you will have temptations and compulsions and competition? How do you look at a wise deployment of money for a good play in terms of, let's say, doing it the right way?
Look, there are two or three things here. Yeah. I think these questions are mixed. One is,
Hmm.
uh, does your startup need so much capital? Is the market size big enough?
Hmm.
Okay, just because somebody is giving you capital doesn't mean you need to take it. And I
Okay.
have had founders refusing to take capital,
Hmm.
saying, we want to build it at our own pace. Second, when we do this, we don't think our product market fit is there. I've seen founders refuse it.
Hmm.
Okay. But the most common thing is to accept it. Now,
Hmm.
once you
That's what.
accept, yeah, and let's say you become a unicorn,
Hmm.
but your company doesn't have that market size,
Hmm.
or you don't have product market fit, then
Hmm.
you can spend money on whatever you want. And now you will have the pressure that I have money I need to spend,
Yep.
right? If you end up scaling without product market fit, I'm saying you're gone. If you don't know how much each sales guy sells, if I give him X salary, Y incentive, do they sell 5X plus Y? If
Hmm.
that metric is not done,
Hmm.
you can put 100 sales guys, and I'm saying your capital will be gone.
Hmm.
And the sales guys will also be gone, and you won't have any customers.
Sure.
Yeah.
So the term PMF seems
Uh,
to be the most, yeah, but go on with your remaining points here.
no, I was just saying that in the other part, if you are paying salary, you have to look at each unit of people as it's like a what do you call each person is like a PNL. You are
Sure.
investing something in the
Hmm.
person, there's
Hmm.
certain output that you want.
Hmm. Hmm.
Now, you might need now it's sometime possible your person is very critical, then you pay whatever is required to get that person because the person can produce 10x of what you're paying.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is great. But if you're paying an exorbitant salary for the person who will not produce that output, but you have to pay it just because it is a number in an Excel sheet or others are hiring and hence you want to hire, that is
Hmm.
obviously money down the drain. But
Hmm.
this is hard to do, very hard to do.
The discipline around this can be super hard to maintain, especially when you have like dollars flowing from up there and you need to find a way to deploy them, or else somebody else will.
Very
What
hard.
about competition? A lot of people would claim that we do this because competition is doing this. So the whole aspect of taking shortcuts which are not sustainable. And again,
Hmm.
as the philosophy Webbing Age ends up talking about retention a lot, right? So we talk about the terms like PMF and scaling up after PMF and making sure that you're retaining your customers when you're scaling up your acquisition. So I'm just wondering now in terms of how the competitive space operates and basis those pressures, how do you maintain sanity?
Look, if somebody else has more money and is taking, I don't think it's possible to take away all the talent, right?
Sure.
I don't think that is possible. Okay. There have to be some people in the world who believe your culture more than everything else and are willing to take 20-30% less salary and
Hmm.
still join you.
Hmm. Hmm.
It might be harder to find those people. Like, for example, you want to
Hmm.
hire tech people. Tech people are just hard to find. One, because they don't have a social circle which is big enough.
Yeah.
And they're not available, they're not posting. People like you and me are easy
They're
to
hard to
find way
find.
too. We are here
Yep.
talking. We're here talking.
Yep, yep, yep. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. Easy.
Yeah, absolutely. But these are difficult to find. So if you only want to
Hmm.
throw money and you don't want to solve the problem, it is going to be hard for you. And you will say that
Hmm.
it is not. But competition is reality. You need to do whatever you need to do to be able to get the talent which can get you the output you want. There's
So
no
there's
doubt about it.
competition for talent, and then there's also competition for customers, right? And that's where the whole unsustainable discounting. You mentioned this word earlier that if your customers are not buying a product for the discount, then you're probably dead anyway. But then one would claim that
Hmm.
in order to beat competition or match competition, I need to offer discounts. So, and that's just
I'm
one of
saying,
the
and hence you
symptoms
will,
of the
and
many
uh,
unsustainable things that startups start to do, right?
absolutely, and hence you will need money, and then then what is happening is it is possible you are getting diluted a bit. If the market size is not big enough, the
Hmm.
founders get diluted a bit because they raise this more capital. Their equity reduces.
Hmm.
But what is definitely going to happen is that this investor is not going to get the return that they expect.
Hmm.
So the founders are still okay in some way. Let's say it
Hmm.
is a $2 billion market rather than a $5 billion market, and you raised at $1.5 billion or whatever. So the return the investor is going to get is going to get lower.
Hmm.
The founders will still make money, everybody else will still make money. But yeah, investors are complicit in this because they are saying, come,
Yeah.
I did this tweet around how to raise $1 billion. And the point is, somebody comes and gives it to you. You can't go about asking for $1 billion. You don't get it that way.
Sure. And you've seen journeys of people having raised that kind of money. So in terms of the journeys and the PMFs and the ups and downs of it, it's complicated.
Absolutely.
So frugality in general and appropriate deployment of capital would translate into a bit of a DNA, or would it? Because that's where my concern with all of these super fast growing startups is if you are going to throw discounts and money at every problem, at the end of a couple of years, probably all that your people know what to do or how to do is by throwing money at problems. And then it's hard to kind of change these habits because when you have, let's say, some degree of scale, it's just how your organization operates. You don't know how to do it differently.
No, I have seen this in multiple startups, multiple
Hmm.
unicorn startups. When the money stops, the person who opened 50 cities and was the star 2 years ago is now useless
Hmm.
because he doesn't know how to do it without spending the money.
So won't that be a great idea to do it without the money? At least for sometimes you build your so-called innovation muscle or frugality as a DNA, and then pump in the money because then you'll use your capital well, or maybe you
So
won't.
there
I
is
don't
no
know.
sing. I'm just saying there is no single answer to this, Gatu.
Hmm.
The thing is, you need to if you need to spend money to get market share, you need to spend money to get market share.
Hmm.
Okay, there's no doubt about it. But at the
Hmm.
same time, what is the right price for the customer? How to get done things frugally is an important piece, and how to do it without throwing money that the
Hmm.
person should understand. That is critical. What has happened? What happens a lot of times is you just say, "Ki boss, मुझे 50 share खोलने." Here is the money. Money is not a concern. You go and open it, and then the
Hmm.
person goes and finds the easiest way to do it without without the mind for am I overpaying, not overpaying? What will happen when I stop investing this money? How will I still retain
Hmm.
my customers? So there is needs to be an end out game strategy in place when you are doing the initial part for the initial
Hmm.
part to be more successful. Amazon is known for being frugal, like
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah, even
The
at
dose
this
for
scale,
death, right? That's where the story was.
yeah, absolutely.
So frugality is, I mean, a pretty
It's
commonly
always useful.
understood term, but I wonder how well it's applied lately, given the way the ecosystem is shaping. I don't know if people remember being frugal anymore.
Yeah, we'll find out in
That's
2 3 years.
yeah, well, but in your sense, the last laugh is likely to remain with people who know how to remain and grow frugally, or we'll see in two, three
I'm
years.
saying it is no. I'm saying it is just more useful. Finally, as
Yeah.
a valuation metric, everything this is where it
Hmm.
ends. If you're doing an IPO and you want your valuation to sustain, you will need to show a multiple of profit. Profit is a function of cost and revenue. And frugality is. I'm saying I'm saying cost is frugality.
So, I mean, the question was in terms of an early stage startup, if this is built into the DNA and culture, this will have rewards subsequently down the road. But if it's not, it will have those anti rewards or punishments down the road as well, right? It'll come to bite you at some point.
Right, and you can still correct it. It's just going to be hard.
Hmm. Yeah, sure. I mean, if you can still correct it, you might as well because you're otherwise going to pay the price.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, well, the last question, given that we are close to the end of our official time slot, first-time founders versus second-time founders. Now, you chose not to start a company again, but your co-founder Vibhor did. And what is it that you see difference in terms of his approach to life or business, or how he's choosing to do things?
Hmm. So, when Vibhor and I decided to start differently, the reason was he was like, he was always working 18 hours a day and he
Hmm.
wanted to keep working 18 hours a day. He has made life choices because the only way I could convince him to sell CoCubes was by saying, ये unicorn नहीं बनेगी, तेरे को unicorn बनानी है, तो नहीं बनानी पड़ेगी कोई. Yeah.
अच्छा, तो उसके लिए फिर
Uh,
मोटिवेशन इज यूनिकॉर्न, हाँ?
huh? No, I'm
But
saying at that
he's
point, that's the thing
sure.
I used 5 years ago.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh, and we decided we will invest, 1 crore in each other's companies because that keeps us talking. We own significant share in each other's companies. Whatever I
Hmm.
will do, he will own. I own
Hmm.
in one
Hmm.
bank. I'm
Hmm.
on the board. I spend 10% of my time there. The difference to the question that you asked, the difference is I think it is easier, two or three differences, two differences. It is easier to raise capital because there is
Hmm.
credibility for second
Sure.
time founders. That makes a big difference. Uh, the second is that easier to hire, and it is easier to hire right because you have experience in hiring people. You know what you want. Okay. PMF is still hard. So no
Sure.
matter how many years experience you are, you still have to build the company. You still have to find PMF. Yeah. These are the three things that I could think of. Two of them being beneficial,
But you
and the
said
last one
it's
being
easier to hire and raise money, but that's easier because of a certain level of credibility and experience that's associated. So that's where I'm wondering as to what are the top few things that people do differently when they do it the second time?
यार
Hire,
उसके
right?
बाद
Of
क्या
course, you
होगा.
said. Huh?
No, but I'm saying you have learned, hopefully you learned your lessons. Now you are more frugal in how you spend,
Hmm.
right? Or if you're spending money, you know where it'll give you output. You have an end strategy to come out of it.
Hmm.
Okay. You know that you will not hire from a senior executive from a large corporate hoping they will bring in magic because you realize that the person's
ऐसा नहीं
capability is
होता.
not the one that you're hiring. They work in that large company because of the brand of the large company. And once that you take
Hmm.
them out, that person isn't very useful. So there are so
Sure.
many lessons that you have from having done what you have done.
Which is exactly I was
That
trying to make a laundry list of because first timers के लिए अगर वो लिस्ट पहले मिल जाए तो ऐसा होता है ना कि एक पूरा स्टार्टअप
the
बना के
laundry
बेचने
list
के
is
बाद.
the laundry list is in the book, man. Let's build a company. The
Yeah, I
laundry
know
list is there.
actually. Yeah, so I found a bunch, in fact. So yeah, on that note, I think I'm at the end of my questions, and it's of course a possibly large, endless conversation we can have with Harpreet. But I wanted to make sure we stay within our time frame. And Sid, if there are audience questions, anybody has something to ask to Harpreet, it's a good time to do that. Awesome. So people are pretty satisfied with it, or no one cares to listen on us whatever Thursday morning. But
Absolutely. I think
yeah,
it's the second one.
yeah, no, we do a good job at publicity, Harpreet. So don't worry about it. Your book sales should start showing some outcomes from this exercise. So don't worry about that
Okay.
one. Awesome. So if there's no questions, I will let you have your rest of the day thinking about parenting. And of course, that's a separate conversation, which probably I don't know if there's a great forum to do that on, but I'm going to ping you nonetheless on all those topics that we keep hearing from you about. Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much
Take
for
care.
joining
Thanks
us,
for
Harpreet,
having me here.
today. It's been amazing. I hope it was great for you as well to talk about some of these things. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here. See you soon.
Super. Have a nice day ahead.
Bye.
Okay. Outro time, please.